Islam Makhachev is a 2-division champion with a 16-fight win streak. To a lot of fans, he belongs in the same conversation as Khabib.
The only thing Khabib has over Islam is that he never lost.
But go back to October 2018, and none of that looked like it was ever coming. In fact, he almost lost his career before it had properly started. So how did a guy the UFC nearly threw away end up as one of the greatest fighters on the planet? October 2018, Khabib against Conor McGregor, UFC 229, and Islam Makhachev was in Khabib's corner. Khabib forced the tap in the 4th round, and for a moment, it looked like a normal win. Then he ripped out his mouthpiece, pointed at Conor's corner, and threw himself over the fence.
Dagestanis, they not talking shit for promotional purposes.
No.
No. You gotta be real careful.
No, that's down in the marrow of the bones.
The target was Dylan Dennis, who'd spent the whole build talking trash about Khabib's team and their religion. Within seconds, the whole arena turned. Fists flying cage side, a second fight breaking out inside the octagon, security pouring in from every direction. 3 of Khabib's team were detained that night, and somewhere in the middle of it was Islam Makhachev. Exactly what he did is still argued over. The more detailed accounts have him going over the fence with Khabib, straight at Dennis rather than pushing into the cage at Conor the way Zubaira Tukhugov did. Other reports put him inside the octagon. Footage went around soon after what appeared to show Islam catching Dennis with a shot to the back of the head. He was never charged, and the video was never confirmed either way. But at the post-fight press conference, Dana White made a promise that could change everything.
How about for you internally? I mean, it looked like 2 of the guys that got in there, we believe were on the roster. I mean, Islam Makhachev and Zubaira Tukhugov. Would you take sanctions against him or Khabib?
Of course. The guys who jumped in will never fight here.
Islam didn't compete at UFC 229. He wasn't even booked on the card. He threw one disputed punch in a brawl over someone else's rivalry, and it left his whole UFC future hanging over a fight he was never actually in. So how did he end up in that corner in the first place? Quick pause, because if you're still using a sportsbook app for UFC fights, you're leaving money on the table. This video is sponsored by Polymarket, a prediction market where you trade against other people instead of a house that wants you to lose. In case you didn't know, sportsbooks can take around $9 from every $100 win. Polymarket takes about 10 cents, and they'll never lock your cash out, so you can get in and out whenever you like, even right in the middle of a round. I'm pretty tempted to go in on this one ahead of UFC 330. Islam to be welterweight champ at the end of 2026 is at 71%, which feels pretty low to me. You could even go in on Ian Gary at 29% and sell if he starts strong. Polymarket's giving you a free $20 when you sign up and deposit $10 with my code MARK20. You can check out the link in the description or pinned comment to use this exclusive offer. Islam was born in Makhachev and raised in Burshi, a remote mountain village in Dagestan. His father grew tomatoes and drove for a living. His mother ran a small cafe.
He don't care too much about this whole stuff.
What you mean, man?
No, he's not on sports, He just hard worker all his life. He work with his hand,
And his road into fighting was never a straight line. He started in Taekwondo at 7 under a local coach named Saifullah Magomedov. He then switched to Sanda. Then, when his family moved towns, he dropped combat sports altogether and spent a couple years playing soccer. He came back through freestyle wrestling before he ever went near MMA.
Some country kids play soccer when they was young, but our republic, when we was kids, we start to do wrestling, You have to wrestle all your life. That's why all fighters from Dagestan have good wrestling skills.
And somewhere in the middle of all that, at school, he'd become friends with a kid named Abubakar Nurmagomedov, Khabib's cousin. When Islam finally committed to mixed martial arts, he walked into the gym run by Khabib's father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov.
When I changed many things, like Wushu Sanda, I changed wrestling, like a lot of things. Like Wushu Sanda, you can just strike. Wrestling, you can do like just wrestling. But Sambo, you can do everything. This is very similar like MMA. And I went to the Sambo class and I feel this what I like, with this what I need, like it's like MMA. You can do whatever you want to do.
And just like that, Islam's career was locked in with the Nurmagomedov family. It was a bond that would make his career and box him in for the next 10 years. Under Abdulmanap, he put together a world-class base in sambo and wrestling, went unbeaten on the Russian regional scene, and by 2014, the UFC had seen enough to hand him a 4-fight deal. But the trouble started before he'd thrown a single punch in the octagon. He arrived already carrying a label because to everyone watching, he was Khabib's protege. To most fans, he was a small name attached to a much bigger one, but at UFC 187, he would have one chance to change that. The man across from him was Leo Kuntz, a seasoned veteran who'd only lost twice in almost 20 fights. It didn't matter. Islam got him down, took his back, and choked him out in the second round.
Really happy. I was waiting for this moment for a long time, and I took my chance today.
Then he leapt straight into Khabib's arms in the corner. The media took notice, and the insider praise coming out of Dagestan suddenly looked dead on. The pieces were all there, but his second UFC fight is the one that nearly ended everything. A little over 4 months later, Islam was back in the cage at UFC 192 against a Brazilian veteran named Adriano Martins. Martins was a sharp counterpuncher, and this was a quick turnaround against exactly the kind of fighter you don't rush toward. He came forward aggressively, hands low. In the first round, he walked straight into a clean counter right hand. His legs buckled, and the referee waved it off. To this day, it's the only loss of his career.
Когда я проиграл, долго я себя, не сказать, что долго, но было время, когда приходил, почему так стало. Вообще этот период был для меня тяжелый, я когда вернулся, потом с этим мельдонием эти сказки начались, и тяжелый период был, и тогда я много размышлял, сам себе задавал вопросы, и я думаю, вырос как боец.
But for a fighter sold as the next great Dagestani, everyone was starting to wonder, could he actually take a punch from a real striker? That doubt was going to follow him for years, and it landed at the worst possible moment because the man he trained with every day was about to become the biggest star in the sport. While Islam was grinding out wins one at a time, mostly by decision, Khabib was turning into the biggest thing in the sport. In 2018, he won the lightweight title and became a global phenomenon.
Khabib takes
oh my God,
everybody who's good. Rafael dos Anjos, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt world champion, ragdolls him, ragdolls everybody. Michael Johnson. I mean, no matter who he fights,
he ragdolled this guy in the beginning, and I thought it was over right away. I was like, oh, this is over. And but Iaquinta did really well.
Did very well, very well. The thing about Iaquinta is he's a legit crazy person. Like that guy's crazy. He trashes hotel rooms. He's like, you look in his eyes, like, oh, there's only like
he's the guy.
There's only like a couple people home. Like, it's not a full village in that head. That's not a good example, but what I'm saying is like he's a legit maniac and he's not scared. Like he'll fight anybody.
Yeah.
Like you could wake him up at 3 o'clock in the morning and he'll fight anybody.
Next to that, Islam barely registered, and whenever he won, the credit seemed to go anywhere but to him. People pointed to the camp or to his sparring with Khabib. They started calling it the Dagestani machine, like the gym just stamped out the same unbeatable wrestler over and over. His style gave the doubters plenty to work with. All that top control and chain wrestling made him almost impossible to beat and, to a lot of fans, boring to watch.
We grapple together like all our life, and I see how Islam go with a lot of ADCC level guys, even with ADCC champions. They tap when they grapple with Islam. I see 88 kilo, 99 kilo, 77 kilo. I don't want to say name, but they tap.
He was getting hit less than just about anyone in the UFC and getting almost no credit for it. Then there was the division in front of him. He was climbing through the deepest lightweight era the sport had ever seen, stuck behind Conor, Poirier, Gaethje, Ferguson, and Charles Oliveira. The setbacks didn't help. A 2016 suspension for meldonium, later cleared as heart medication, cost him months. Staph infections and late withdrawals kept stalling him after that. By 2018, the contradiction was hard to miss. Islam was winning and climbing, but he was still close to invisible, the overlooked man in a stacked division known mostly as somebody else's training partner. Then everything he'd built was put on the line in a fight that wasn't even his. The morning after the brawl, the punishments started coming down. It wasn't clear what was going to happen to Islam, but the truth is, if he was any other fighter, he might have been gone. In the end, his survival came down to leverage. Khabib had pretty much become the most valuable fighter the company owned, and he made his stance public with a threat that carried a huge amount of weight.
Khabib's training partner was the one who jumped in the cage and started scrapping with McGregor, and now Dana's suggesting that he's going to be fired, the fight's cancelled. Khabib, yeah, he's not too happy about that. So Khabib basically said on Instagram, why didn't you fire anyone when their team attacked the bus and injured people? No one said anything about insulting my homeland, religion, nation, family. Then you think to punish my team when both teams fought. If you say I started it, I do not agree. I finished what he had started. And if you don't believe that Conor threw the first punch, check the video. He hit my brother first. Khabib then says, if you decide to fire him, then you're going to lose me too. We never give up on our brothers in Russia, and I will go to the end for my brother. And one more thing. You can keep my money that you're withholding. You're pretty busy with that. Slightly annoyed, clearly. I hope it won't get stuck in your throat.
For a promotion that had just sold 2.4 million pay-per-views off Khabib's name, that wasn't something they could brush aside. So the danger passed.
We're good. We're good with Khabib.
We're good?
Yeah, you guys are still posting that shit. That was a week ago.
All right.
That was a week ago.
And Islam did the smartest thing available to him. He said nothing, dropped out of sight, and let the whole thing cool off. By April 2019, he was back, matched with a young Arman Sarukian in front of a home crowd in Russia. It was a grappling war he edged on the scorecards, and it took fight of the night. He followed it on Khabib's huge UFC 242 card in Abu Dhabi, grinding out another controlled decision over Davi Ramos. By the end of 2020, it almost didn't matter that Islam had survived the night that nearly ended his career. The knock on him was simple. He could control anyone in the division, but he couldn't put anyone away, and nobody gets a title shot off decisions no one watched. In 2021, the finishes started coming. First, it was Drew Dober, caught in an arm triangle in the third round. Then, Thiago Moises, choked out in the fourth. Dan Hooker tapped to a Kimura in the first round. The man everyone called too safe and too boring, the guy who supposedly couldn't finish anyone, was suddenly ending fights early against real names. Then, in early 2022, he got Bobby Green, who had been pushing the whole boring angle.
Islam, he does what he does, but to be honest, it's kind of boring. You know, even if he getting finishes, it's still been boring. And so my whole thing is entertainment, excitement, you know. So he can be championship material, but it's just fucking boring. Nobody wants to see it. Nobody cares. I fall asleep watching his fights. And then it's like, oh, there's the finish. And like, so they can show a bunch of finishes, which is cool. But it was sleeping, it was boring, it's lackluster.
But Bobby Green got finished too. Around this time, Islam started saying out loud that a run at welterweight might be coming too. But first, he had business to attend to, and now the timing was lining up. Khabib had retired, the lightweight belt had come open again, and after 7 years of waiting behind everyone else, Islam finally had a clear shot at it. His opponent was Charles Oliveira, the most dangerous finisher in the division, and plenty of people still saw this as the Khabib 2.0 experiment, walking into a real test. Islam gave them their answer. He pressured Oliveira, dropped him with a clean left hand, and locked up the arm triangle in the second round. The belt was his.
This was like the biggest difference between you and the other guys. When you dropped him, you jumped on him on the ground. Everybody let him get up.
Yeah, everybody's scared of his grappling, but this is my area. I don't scare grappling.
After 7 years and that one knockout loss, Islam Makhachev was a UFC champion. But winning the belt didn't kill the Khabib comparison. If anything, it got louder, because Khabib had held the same title, gone unbeaten with it, and walked away on top. Anything less from Islam would just feed the doubters, and his first defense drew one of the hardest tests in the sport. He fought Alexander Volkanovski at UFC 284, the pound-for-pound king, moving up from featherweight to try and take his title.
I know this is gonna be like tough fight, no? Because Volkanovski is a real fighter. He never give up. He always fight crazy, you know. He can wrestle, he can grapple, he can strike, you know. That's why it's not easy fight.
It went 5 full rounds and was close the whole way, with Islam trading on the feet far more than his boring wrestler reputation said he could. He edged it on the cards, and this time, something was different about his corner. Khabib wasn't in it. Weeks earlier, Khabib had stepped away from coaching, and for the first time, Islam won a world title fight without his mentor standing beside him. The rematch wiped out whatever doubt was left. At UFC 294, Islam came out fast and finished the featherweight champ in the first round.
This time, I want to finish all this, what the people say, what the people talking. After this fight, I don't want to give some questions to the people.
Then came Dustin Poirier at UFC 302. That one was a brutal 5-round fight, and Poirier pushed him the whole way before Islam locked up a Darce choke in the 5th round to put him away. In January 2025, he made it 4 defenses in a row, submitting late replacement Renato Moicano with a first-round Darce at UFC 311. No one had ever defended the UFC lightweight title 4 straight times before. The boring tag was gone. The Khabib's teammate tag was going with it. Islam had cleared out the entire lightweight division with a record nobody had ever matched, and the name on the belt was finally his own. But he still wasn't done. In 2025, Islam did one thing almost nobody expected. He gave up the lightweight title.
In lightweight, I did everything. I beat the lightweight records who defends more, and you know, I don't see like something's bigger than the second belt, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I asked UFC like many years ago to give me chance to fight for the second belt, you know. Now it's the best time.
It was the belt he'd chased his whole career, the one he'd almost been cut from the sport long before he ever got to hold it, and he vacated it on his own terms, moving up to welterweight to chase a second. At UFC 322, inside Madison Square Garden, he challenged Jack Della Maddalena, the welterweight champion, in his first fight at a brand new weight. Della Maddalena was one of the sharpest strikers in the sport, and he was naturally the bigger man. It didn't matter. Islam fought the only way he'd ever known how. He took Della Maddalena down over and over and out-pressured a bigger champion across 5 full rounds.
He didn't just beat Jack Della. He didn't just dominate Jack Della. He broke him.
When his hand went up, Islam Makhachev was a 2-division UFC champion, only the 11th fighter in the promotion's history to hold belts in 2 weight classes. And the same night, he tied Anderson Silva's record of 16 straight wins, a streak that traced all the way back to that one knockout by Adriano Martins a decade earlier. From being a young prospect on Dana White's cut list over a brawl that was never even his fight, to holding belts in 2 weight classes, sitting on top of the pound-for-pound rankings, with everyone calling him one of the greatest fighters on the planet. But it left one argument hanging over everything he'd done. Had Islam Makhachev passed Khabib? The man who saved his career, trained him, and had his back for years is now the man he gets measured against. And for a lot of fans, he's surpassed him.
I felt on Saturday, the look on Islam's face, the demeanor, the body language suggested that he now has his own legacy. He now has his own thing outside of Khabib's world.
Islam turned a career the UFC almost ended into one of the greatest runs the sport has ever seen. But not every fighter gets to make the most of their prime. Some see the UFC wasted for them, and not many fighters had it wasted worse than Michael Chandler. To see how it happened, check out this video next. Thanks for watching.